Well, it's of a gentleman soldier as a sentry he did stand. He saluted the fair maid by a waving of his hand. So boldly then he kissed her and he passed it off as a joke. He drilled her up and the sentry box rubbed up in the soldier's cloak. And the drums did go with a rat-tat-tat and the pipes did loudly play. Fare thee well, Polly me dear, I must be going away. All night they tossed and tumbled till daylight did appear. The soldier rose, caught on his close, and fare you well me dear. For the drums they are a-sounding and the pipes they sweetly play. If it weren't for that dear Polly, then along with you I'd stay. And the drums did go with a rat-tat-tat and the pipes did loudly play. Fare thee well, Polly me dear, I must be going away. Oh come you gentleman soldier, won't you marry me? Oh no me dearest Polly, such things never can be. For I've a wife already and children I have 3. 2 wives are allowed in the army, but one's too many for me. And the drums that go with the rat-tat-tat and the pipes that loudly play. Fare thee well, Polly me dear, I must be going away. If anyone comes a-courting you, you can treat them to a glass. If anyone comes a-courting you, you can say you're a country lass. You don't have to tell them that ever you played this joke, that you were drilled in the sentry box wrapped up in the soldier's cloak. And the drums that go with the rat-a-tat-tat and the pipes that loudly play. Fare thee well, Polly me dear, I must be going away. Oh come you gentleman soldier, why didn't you tell me so? My parents will be angry when this they come to know. And when 9 long months have come and passed, that poor girl she brought shame. She had a little militia boy and she didn't know his name.
Hello friends and gamers, and welcome to the Allied Strategic Briefing for July 1940, which will be turn number 9, I believe. So, this episode is very delayed. I've seen the German turn, I've seen the Russian turn, so it's a very delayed turn. But nonetheless, I want to make it for posterity's sake, and so I'll talk about not what I expect the German strategy will be or the Russian strategy, but kind of a more in-depth perspective on what our Allied reactionary strategy will be. So let's first look at the British. Well, we know the Germans are launching an attack here in the British Midlands. I was overly concerned with losing the fleet because my thinking was the Russians may still make an attempt against London if I weakened it. I hadn't much thought about the British Midlands. And by having this air force here, even though it's unprotected, I had enough forces here to protect this fleet here against an air attack plus submarine attack against this position. So what I should have done is buffed up British Midlands a little bit further. But doesn't matter anymore because next turn this fleet here, some of them anyways, the slower moving units, the coastal defense ship and the torpedo boat destroyer is going to come to here, to Sea Zone 24. And the rest of the fleet is going to come off into the Mediterranean to hold off the Italian a little bit more. We'll have to put our presence and spread it along the coast a little bit more. I think we would rather put it more on here into the Sea Zone 81. I feel that's the more vital area. But I think the Italians are going to start ramping up their power projection as well too, with building a few transport ships and that kind of thing. So that will be something interesting to see. If the Germans make a move on Greece, so they have to first go through Macedonia, which means that we get a reaction of dropping off, I think 8 units in Thessaly. So they won't get much further than Thessaly if that's what they do. Much further than Macedonia, rather. If they go into Macedonia, I have 1 turn to react by dropping troops off in Thessaly. That's the plan there, and I think we can hold that till the end of the game. And it also gives us a launching pad into the, to start acting up in this area of the woods, into, with airborne attacks or whatever else. Speaking of airborne attacks, we're going to see some action here. Sorry, there's an Italian factory that got bounced over there. I think it's supposed to be in Rome at this point. So we're going to make some attacks here soon into Alsace-Lorraine with our air units, because the thinking of that is if we drop an air unit in Alsace-Lorraine, it costs us $3 and we'll get $3 out of the deal. So at the end of the day, we're coming out in a balanced force, and if we take out one of their forces in the meantime, then it's all the better. So that's what's going on there as our reaction strategy. Okay, so what else do we got planning on the go? The French are, they are doing some action over here. Next place we can take is Tunisia, and so that will be an interesting fight. We don't know if we are actually going to go after Tunisian Air Force, but it wouldn't be a bad thing if we did. We'd likely lose this battle, but we might need to make an attempt anyways. Okay, so the Free French, they're just going to keep on picking up their territories, but they also have to start worrying about defense of these territories. The Italians are probably going to make a push against them, so we need to at least hold on to northern Algeria and maybe Morocco, since it's mountain territory. Tunisia, we could always fight over and get it back eventually. In Africa, we could pick this one up perhaps next turn. It'd be an equal fight, 2 versus 2, but it may be an option. And we may be able to pick up the cavalry next turn and drop it off in Madagascar. Now, there was some confusion about that, and there still is in my mind, because it says first round of combat, only infantry class may land, but there's no combat here, so I think I could just simply drop off the cavalry and pick up that territory. I don't think that's a problem, but who knows? There may be a problem with that. I'm not too sure. Okay, so that's the Free French strategy. I'm going to also be building up. The only place I think I could receive Lend-Lease is in Mauritania. Now, unfortunately, Mauritania is not a capital, is not a port. So if I had built, I couldn't even have built a port here. I would have had to save up for several turns to finally build a port and then to upgrade the port. But my plan is to upgrade this port, because even if I built a port here in Morocco, see, what I'm trying to say is before, when Free France was established, I could have the capital city I could establish anywhere I want to. And so the only ports I had available at the time was, I guess, down here on the Ivory Coast, which was a little bit far from the action, Mauritania, which was a little closer, and Morocco, which had no port at all. If I had built it here, it would be closer to some of the key, more valuable territories, but there was no port here, so they wouldn't be able to receive Lend-Lease. They'd had to save up for 4 turns, I think, before they could even build a minor port, and then thenceforth. But right now the capital is in Mauritania, so I'm going to upgrade this port and start sending them some, upgrade this port, and start sending them some higher quality units. Probably some airborne, probably some air transports, and then that way they can start projecting their threat a little bit broader. I may also start going a more naval route with building up some naval forces so that I can take out this naval force here. I wouldn't need too much, a couple units anyways, to get rid of that, and that's the hope anyways. So that's the Free French strategy. The British, quickly going back to them, they've wiped out all the German submarines. I mean, they will up in the next turn. This fleet here is going to join the Mediterranean. Most of this fleet, 50%, at least the 2 destroyers and a cruiser, are going to join the Mediterranean. And the coastal defense is going to come up here, and another destroyer up to here. So we're going to be prepared fairly good for the defense of that area. A little bit further afield here in South Africa. So we now have this medium bomber present here, where we can wipe out that submarine. And we could also get our Anzac destroyer down here to assist in that fight, and guarantee, almost guarantee, that that ship is, that submarine is lost, which will give us $2 of bonus income this turn, which will be really nice and handy. It'll pay for itself. Now we need to, worryingly, we need to start thinking about this front here between Montgomery and Timoshenko in Transcaucasus. I predict later on in the fight, if the Russians are doing well, the next avenue of attack will be into the Middle East. So we need to start buffing up this area with a few militia. Oh, well, 1 militia per turn, I think, should do it. Of course, they can always come through this way, but we could see that action coming a little bit longer. Yeah, that's the thinking. Now, one quick thing, cavalry. Question, comment for you guys. Can this cavalry reach this position in 1 turn? Sorry, to southern Iran. I don't think so, because that would be a blitz, but some people read it as there's no combat, so it's not a blitz, so therefore it goes straight to southern Iran. Now let me know your comments on that one. Another avenue of attack the Russians can do is into Turkey, which will make them Axis. That'll be another interesting factor to have to deal with. That'll come later on too, if it does ever happen, but I think it might. The Russians are very powerful in this game. The communists in general. Now I've already moved these CCP forces here because I was doing some math about if Hong Kong could survive. And it would survive, barely, if at all. Like, it's really, the dice are fickle things, but at the end of the day, with your dice rolls, I think we had to have a good chance for Hong Kong to survive, but to the point where the Japanese can swoop in and capture the rest of it, regardless of what's there. Likewise with Kuomintang, the CCP, they would decimate their own forces to get in here, but they would win. Well, yeah, they would win in the end, but with a marginal victory is what it is. So it really depends on dice rolls, I suppose. But on average, I think they would win that fight. But I hope they don't go into there. I hope they seek to self-preserve their nation, because once they wipe out the KMT, the Japanese may, well, it may be a bit too late for them, but if they did, they may launch their attacks into CCP territory, because they'd be so weak, especially on the southern areas here, that they may not be able to win any fight over there. And the Japanese could quickly take over territories, like $6 worth of territories here, and turn the tables rapidly on the CCP, especially if combined with a German assault into Russia. And I'm doing my best to prevent that from happening from the Japanese. I'm doing my best to prevent the Japanese from being attracted to any other option. If they go to war, they may be able to take out Singapore because they have sufficient transports here. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units they can pick up and drop off here. 7 units. They would win this fight. It is mountainous territory. It is fortified territory, and I do have this coastal defense. So that is quite good, but this is the most likely option. This option here they can't reach except with 4 Marines, and their aircraft can't reach there either. Likewise with Sydney, their aircraft are not boosted up by movement, so the aircraft could go 1, 2, 3, 4. They have long range, so they can get to Sydney, but they wouldn't be able to get back out to the sea zone. So this aircraft stack can't get there. So the only targets I'm worried about is Singapore. That's the most likely option. And we'll see, I guess the video will come out before then, but Singapore, between what the transports can bring in plus what's coming over land with these 4 units, they can wipe out Singapore pretty quickly. But I didn't invest much into there. I mean, some militia and such to take out some units initially, but if it falls, it falls, and that's just the way of it. It will bring America largely into the fight, though, which brings us to this such here. So I'm going to call this a mousetrap strategy. The American fleet mousetrap, or yeah, the American mousetrap, let's call it that. So here we have submarines. Now these submarines can all submerge if attacked. I'd only take 2 casualties in this one, and the aircraft don't even need to scramble. If this Japanese force comes to that position, so it's a sizable force, combined with, I believe this thing could get there as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, they can't. Maybe they could have gotten here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, yeah. So that fast battleship can actually reach this position as well. So if they do that, then yes, they could wipe out this fleet. But the plan would be just to simply submerge this fleet. Now, if they submerge, I would of course lose this heavy cruiser and light cruiser. The reason I had something here is, well, yeah, anyways, but on the subsequent turn, I can hit this position with this fleet up north here off the coast of Alaska, 1, 2, with these aircraft here, as well as the fleet that is off the coast of Panama, right here. So that is a significant force. It's another 2 battleships, 2 cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 4 destroyers, and a fleet carrier. So that means between everything here, plus if these submarines, like I said, if they submerge, so if they re-emerge, man, he's going to be wiped out. So that's the mousetrap, the American mousetrap. If he comes here, he's wiped out. And yes, he will do some damage by taking out these 2 ships. And if he does an amphibious landing, of course, that's a different story as well. He may score a victory point off of me, right? But he'll pick up these 2 territories. I can then scramble my aircraft because his aircraft also can't reach. They'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they would need 1 more move to get back on their carriers. So they can't hit my land positions. It would be just simply 2 Marines in either one of these positions, and 2 Marines against my aircraft. Of course, he can shore bombardment, but he's going to want to keep some of his available units to fight this potential attack here too, his battleships and such. So I won't say if I'm submerging or not until he decides what he's going to send into that position, and then he'll be dealing with perhaps a minor shore bombardment into this area here. Minor by that meaning perhaps a couple destroyers, perhaps the battle cruiser, we'll have to see. But minor shore bombardment, and then I'll have my aircraft to respond to anything he lands into there as well. So we'll have to see how that pans out. We'll have to see. But either way, if he sends any significant force to this position, like with his takes 2 destroyers, because again, he's only got 2 Marines. So if he brings anything here, it could be wiped out on the subsequent turn. And he has to bring something sufficient enough, because this is a bait, but the bait could disappear just by simply submerging. So this is a bait. If he comes here, he'll be wiped out. So he's not going to come in that direction. Is he going to come to Sydney? Well, not without his air support. And I've got, 4 militia here? Yeah, 4 militia here, 3 infantry, and a motorized against his potential 4 marines. There's no way he can do this. I mean, with shore bombardment, he could do 4 hits on me, but unlikely to get more than 3. No more than 3. And his aircraft can't also reach here. So I would have an advantage. Also, I have the mountain territory here. Now what else? So that's why I say Malaya is the most likely choice. And he gets a free hit off of this thing here too. So that is also quite nice. It's very easy to take that one out. Now he has to go there with sufficient force, because I have 3 aircraft from the KMT that can scramble to this position, because I have an air base here. So if he forgets about that and sends only only combat moves a small amount of units here, then yeah, that's going to be a different story. So I'll have to remind him that if he comes here, to let me know what comes here, because I may scramble. I mean, I don't want to give that away too. That's the danger of giving this stuff away. But if he's saying, no, I'm reserving my ships for shore bombardment, then that's something else I could have done here. Retrospectively, I should have moved these Free French to this position here, just for an extra two chance of absorbing some hits on them. So that's what's happening on the KMT front. I'm most worried about this, marginally worried about this. Of course, I'll lose either one of them if they decide to attack. But yeah, at the end of the day, what can a person do? You just have to kind of fight it out and survive. So if I lose it here, well, then I lose it there. The next attack by the CCP will likely be towards the Japanese, either down here or up north. Either way, it's going to be interesting, and either way, he's going to be making enemies. And yeah, it's going to be deadly for sure. He could do a lot of damage, and I don't have much income to, I don't have much factories to build up to rapidly build up my troops here. But on the flip side, he can't reinforce as easily too. So we'll have to play that by ear and just go with what happens, I suppose. We would have a few turns to survive here. He would have to go 1, 2, 3. So it'd be 3 turns before he gets anywhere significant. Well, more if he sends his entire force here. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 turns to get to that position. So in the meantime, I could build that up with a good amount of troops, that's for sure. So that's all what's happening on this side. Now let me quickly take you to the other side of the map. The Allies at this point, their strategy is just to hold on, just to wait, hold out the enemy, preserve their strength, wait for the Germans to engage the Russians. I'm honestly not used to this, because for me, I usually engage the Russians fairly quickly. Within 3 or 4 turns of France is falling, I'm already engaging the Russians. But in this game, it's probably not going to happen until July 1941, if not January 1942. So we'll have to see. It'll be a while anyways. My hope is that we'll see some significant Germans forces, land forces being built and being pushed eastwards, and that way that way we can start solidifying our position somewhere else. It'll take the pressure off the KMT as the CCP diverts some of their lend-lease to the Russians, and hopefully it'll pan out. But right now, we can't even do too much yet. We have to preserve our strength in anticipation of fighting back a little bit later. So let's talk about this battle. Battle of the Dykes, I'm calling it, where it was a strategy of reinforcing the Netherlands and seeing if we could cause more damage to the Germans than they caused to us. Didn't really pan out. They have lots of high-powered units that came into there, and I'm sure I got $18 for free. But at the end of the day, I invested $18 here, and the Germans invested $15, and so in the end I ended up losing by a little bit. I mean, 36 to 15 looks bad, but if you look at the investment of 18 versus 15, well, we still lost out, but not that much. This one's here, the Battle of the Atlantic, how many ships were lost on either side. So this is an updated version. Now again, so this is how much we lost to the anti-sub rolls. The submarines rolled against when they were being attacked by an anti-submarine warfare. This is how much the Germans raided. So we lost $19, we lost $7 to with that destroyer loss, so a total of 37. The Germans, on the other hand, lost $46 worth of submarines just in anti-submarine warfare and anti-convoy, like the convoy defense system. 33 bucks were sunk of the Kriegsmarine as they attempted to surround the British Isles. 7 bucks were sunk in the Mediterranean with their German party cruiser. And then we had here 22 bucks that they got from the Free French, that they confiscated, or what's the word? Commandeered. Yeah. So a total of 108 IPP versus 37 IPP. So a huge difference, 2/3 greater losses than what we suffered. Part of it was tactical mistakes. Some of the things like moving that Free French fleet should have come back to the Baltic. This attack against blockading the British Islands shouldn't have been done. So that would have, at that point, it would have been 46-7. And even this one here, if the Italians had jumped into the war at an appropriate time, that would have probably changed that equation a little bit too. So that was not a bad strategy, sending a transport down there. It just, perhaps it was better off building a transport later on in the game when Germany took out Yugoslavia instead of bringing that transport to the Med. So in the end of the day, I would only count 46 versus 37. And even this 46, I mean, I think at times the German player needs to form wolf packs and go after certain ships as well, like destroyers and that kind of thing, just to thin out what can hit them on the future turns. Now, as you saw, I didn't build a single seaplane because I think with careful positioning, the British player can definitely make it worth their while to just build fighters. Seaplanes are only good against submarines, so again, in an anti-submarine role, but useless otherwise. So what's really the point of building submarines? They cost a lot of money. I'd rather save a little bit, build a fighter, and just tackle them using my light carriers and fighters. That's my thinking on that, especially since seaplanes can't even land on light carriers. So really, I'd rather wipe out the submarine fleet as quick as I can instead of picking them off at 50% combat value with seaplanes hitting at 3 versus the fighters hitting at 6 and then being useful in other parts of the world too. This here I'm going to be labeling and calling the Battle of the Atlantic pretty soon. Not quite yet. I feel like that Battle of the Atlantic is not quite over. This has not happened for this turn yet. It's already in turn 10, but the Germans lost 30 IPP and the English lost 32 IPP. So far it's fairly balanced. We hope to deter them from any future attacks by building up some more militia and perhaps some anti-aircraft there as well, just to really fortify those positions and prevent anything like that from happening. Because our goal, even though this is all messed up, I apologize, I need to update it anyways from turn number 10. Our goal is to make it cheaper for the Germans to invade Russia. That's the hope, and we hope to succeed in that because Russia is just growing stronger and stronger every turn, and we can't take on two enemies at once. We can't take on the Axis and the Comintern as well, which we may be doing here in Iran and with the KMT. Now, in Iran, I think I had to do that move I did it with the French income. I'm not sure if I would do it again, but against Hilltop, with his aggressive tendencies of invading places like Norway, Mongolia, I think Iran would have been the next choice. So I think it makes all kinds of sense to go into Iran, but I don't know if I would do it again against a more standard kind of player. Let's put it that way. Okay, so that takes care of the Allied strategic briefing for this turn. I will try to edit it and put it up online with some nice pictures and things and music. I hope you guys enjoy those videos. I enjoy making them. It helps me sum up some thoughts and strategies in my own mind, and I hope it kind of unpacks some thinking for you guys as well. And I hope those other guys, I hope you like the other guys' videos too, and what they have to say about things. And I hope this becomes a trend for other people who are starting out YouTube war series like Ozark Outpost and Mark the Shark and the Fighting Irish have started their own YouTube series for Global War 1936. So check out their video. I think they're titling it the Operation Frostbite. So check out their video. It's definitely worth watching. And I hope to see something like this with Axis strategy. With strategic briefings as well. I really enjoy making them, and I enjoy watching them when other people put them up. So I'd be very excited to see if they did something similar to that as well. But I know it's a lot of work, though. I know for myself, I'm always swamped with stuff to do. So I get it if they don't. Okay, thank you all for watching. Talk to you guys later. Bye.